Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Again, I am struggling with my voice because I lost my voice with a really bad cold, but it's slowly coming back, so I'm going to be mindful of trying to talk quite quietly so I don't distress it and make it any worse than it already is, because it's pretty gross. But I have great news. I got some feedback on my little mini sub-series I was doing on communication in the workplace, and I was going to get into relationships and friendships and all that sort of stuff. And the feedback I got was that it would be more helpful to do one video that had just 2 or 3 major points that would help people to become more efficient and effective with their communication, and the points would be universal, that they could apply in all situations. And I think that's a great idea. So it was difficult for me to narrow it down because I look at things from so many different perspectives as a result of my education and my experiences and my professional experience, and I want to include it all. But it was a good exercise for me because I had to really sit down and think about what the most important points were and which ones would be universally useful in all situations and circumstances. So I did it, and here we go. Let's get into it. So first tip, first out of 3 of a universal communication expertise tip, which you've all heard before, but I can't state it enough and nobody can, is the ability to be an effective listener. So the most important thing is to maintain eye contact and to use affirming body language. So to be nodding yes along with the conversation. And with eye contact, don't stare, of course, but look away, take pauses, take breaks, but make sure when you're making eye contact, it's not fleeting, it's engaging, and use your body language to reflect that you are paying attention and you're following along, and you're not just hearing, you're actually listening and you're understanding, and you're not just waiting for your turn to respond. You are actually paying attention and processing what you're being spoken to about. Second thing is to to reflect on key points and to confirm your understanding. So reflect verbally. So summarize what somebody told you, or at the end of a conversation or at the end of a topic, summarize the important points that you got out of it and kind of regurgitate it back, but not in a regurgitation way, of course. Summarize them and repeat them back to the person, and they'll really feel affirmed that you were listening, you were paying attention. It will make them feel important. It will make them feel valued and heard. And these are very important things, particularly when developing relationships of any type and under any circumstances. And that's what makes this so universal. And avoid distractions. Again, give your speaker your full attention. Forget the watch, forget the phone, forget when the hot chick walks in the room. Don't look. Pay attention to who's speaking to you and try to be affirming in your attentiveness. Again, demonstrating that you are paying attention and you're listening, and that what you're hearing and what they're saying is of value to you, regardless of what the topic is, and that it's something that you want to remember and you want to understand clearly. Asking questions when you need to is also another good way, and it brings attention to the fact that you are showing interest and that it's a topic that you find valuable. And don't forget, being a really good listener is the best way to make somebody else feel heard and valued and important. And how people remember you is based upon how you make them feel. So how they think of you, their perception of you, is how you make them feel. So being a great listener is a really effective way to stand out of a crowd, especially, and this is important professionally, socially, and in these sorts of environments. And making people feel heard is the best way to leave a positive impression about yourself, okay? So that's tip number 1. Universal tip number 2 is being clear and concise. So organize your thoughts before you're speaking and make sure that you have sort of a speaking outline or a plan. If it's a planned speech, like a presentation or a lecture that you're giving, make sure that you have a good framework of everything you want to say and your main topics and your subtopics, and then your supportive information or your supporting evidence, whatever it may be, and make sure it's laid out. In conversation, it's a little more difficult, but you will have opportunities. It's okay to take breaks and to pause when you're speaking. to have presence in your communication and to speak slowly and to be mindful of what you're saying. And not only is that giving you opportunities to think clearly and plan what you're going to say properly, but it also gives the impression that what you're saying is of value and is of importance. And people will listen more effectively to what you have to say when you use these techniques in your communication and in your speech, okay? And the second one is to use simple language, especially when explaining complex topics. So this one has been a challenge to me, particularly in healthcare. I spent a lot of years in Emerge. I spent a lot of years working in forensics and with the police, and I would talk to other professionals, and I would use a lot of scientific or medical terminology, and then I would have to speak to the public or to patients. And of course, I wouldn't use professional terminology with them, but I came to learn that people, of course, come from all different walks of life. They have different levels of articulating language and understanding language. Sometimes English isn't their first language or their primary language. Sometimes they have mild hearing deficits or speech impediments and all sorts of things that make communication different for each and every person, and it's very individualized. So you have to be mindful of this and speak at a level that everybody can understand, and just use simple, straightforward language, because the last thing you want to do is encourage someone through your language to have a misunderstanding of a certain topic or a subject, especially when they're going to attribute that misinformation to you. So you want to be accurate. So speak at a level everybody can understand, and also focus on the key message. Avoid overloading with the listener with unnecessary details. Avoid storytelling and getting sidetracked. Again, you guys know me. I get sidetracked all the time because I have so much I want to share. I'm engaged. I'm excited about the topics I talk about, or passionate about them, or I'm angry about them. And I really want to tell you everything I know about it. And I will go off on tangents if I don't make notes and I don't be clear and set a framework of what I want to talk about. So it's very important to focus on the key message, and again, avoid oversharing, talking about different topics and bringing other things in. Use your framework, your main topics, your subtopics, and your supporting evidence or your supporting information. And that is it. Now on to the third universal point. Excuse me. It's showing empathy and emotional awareness, okay? So this comes down particularly to situations where you're communicating in a challenging situation. So it's either an argument or a disagreement, or a difference of opinion in some matter, and you need to show emotional intelligence here and emotional awareness and empathy. So pay attention to another person's nonverbal cues, to their facial expressions, their body language, and recognize when they're not happy. Make sure, even if they're not saying it, recognize if they're bored, if they are feeling offended, if they are shocked at what you're saying. And once you're able to recognize these things through looking at facial expressions and body language and that sort of stuff, then you're able, and their tone of voice, you're able to respond appropriately. Whereas if you're not aware of these things, then you can't be empathetic and respond appropriately and respond in the way that they need you to respond in order to remain engaged in the conversation. The next point is to validate the other person's feelings. So for instance, if someone's frustrated, to say, I understand why you feel frustrated, and I understand what you're saying, or I feel responsible now because I do understand what I'm doing and what you're trying to tell me, what I've done to make you feel so frustrated, and I apologize for that. That wasn't my intention, and this is what I'm going to do going forward to change that. And then you can move on to making your points. Once you have accepted, acknowledged, and taken responsibility, or you have at least acknowledged their feelings, you're showing emotional awareness, and then you can go on to what you want to discuss, okay? The third point under empathy and emotional awareness is to tailor your communication style to the needs of the emotional state of the other person that you're speaking with. So make sure you're aware if this is a romantic relationship, and someone is, and usually they bring on the most passion and anger, and because there's the most care there, right? Okay, so high passionate relationships have highs and lows, and the lows are just as passionate as the highs could be, right? So make sure if somebody is really hot and they're angry and they're going, the best method and tactic I found to stop that and to pause it is to create what's called an emotional shift in the person, and that is to bring up a topic that is also emotional to that individual, but it's a positive emotional thought or feeling for them, and it's something that you both agree on. It's going to line you back up again and put you in line. So for instance, you could bring up something about one of your children, or about a renovation you just did, or a feature of the house that was just painted, or something like that, something that is going to invoke a positive emotional response and that they feel positively about, and that you both feel the same about. It's universal. And what I want you to say is, you know what? I know you're so frustrated right now, and I'm feeling anxious and frustrated too. And this may be my fault. Maybe we just aren't communicating well right now. Let's take 5 minutes and take a break, and let's talk about something else and bring up something else. So don't be like malicious about it or deceitful. Just be honest and say, I think we need 5 minutes. Like, I really want this conversation to be productive. And when both of us are feeling so frustrated and angry and or anxious, it's not productive. So let's talk about this for 5 minutes and see where we're at. And in 5 minutes, then we'll pick it up back where we left off, and we'll both feel more calm. And usually that is a good way to make an emotional shift in somebody and to bring them back down to earth and back down to, the same plane to their baseline. And those are the 3 points that should help you with being more emotionally aware and showing empathy in your communication. So that's it, guys. Those are my 3 tips that sum up the most important strategic and efficient, effective communication tips that are universal, that you can use in relationships, in professional situations, in personal situations, in social situations, and they should be useful just universally. And I hope they help, guys. So if you like this information and you're enjoying my channel, please subscribe, and don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Even regardless, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it if you think there's somebody that might benefit from it, and like your partner. Just kidding. That's my awful humor, but you never do know. Anyways, I hope everyone has a fabulous day. Thank you so much for joining me and for watching again, and I will see you soon. Take care.